Welcome to the Sonic Days podcast, home of all things audio. This season was recorded live at Sonic Days 2024. In this talk, sound designer Peter Storm-Hvidt and film editor Anne Østerud take us behind the scenes of Families Like Ours, directed by Thomas Vinterberg. They share how their collaboration came about and how it breathed new life into the slow apocalyptic world of the series.
Hello, and welcome to our little talk about families like ours. My name is Peter. I am one of the sound designers of this show. I just want to do a quick background because Sonic College is actually the first place I started going to school about sound. But that was back in when it was in Haderslev. So we didn't have all this very fancy equipment. This was very... other than that, I've been going to film school, and Rune has been my teacher there. I co-sound designed this series with Hans Møller from Copenhagen.
Yes, and my name is Anne. I'm the picture editor, and we have been working very closely through the editing with you in sound. And I've been working with Thomas for many years, and I'm always attached to the project until the very end.
Yeah. Today's topic is going to revolve around sound, but it's also going to be about the sound and editing collaboration, because this has been a very big part of this show. And as Anna told you, she starts very early on and goes through all the way through the final mix. So we just want to start out to show the teaser of the show, to just get in the mood.
Vi er så den sidste årgang, der får lov til at blive studenter på Gammel Hellerup Gymnasium. Om lidt, så er vi skilt ad, som bærene på hækken.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know if it shows that it's actually a disaster series about the water levels rising much sooner than we could have anticipated. That then everybody has to evacuate it from Denmark. So we all become refugees and has to go to different countries, and we can't take everybody with us. So we are constantly in these dilemmas to choose who would we bring or how can we cope with this situation.
So like we said, the editorial has been a big participant in the post-sound, but it really started way before we had any material, like anything was shot. It was on a script. The production called into like a creative meeting where all the main creative functions got together and just shared ideas and thoughts about how they're going to approach the project. And this is a great way to ensure that we all follow kind of Thomas's vision about what he wants with it, but also just to listen and get a feel of all the other creatives' thoughts about it. And because it can inspire you to do different directions or even get inspired by it. So in terms of sound, it would be something like, how is the camera going to move? How is the initial thought about the editing? Locations is a big thing, obviously. And in this, a very big thing, because we move through a lot of countries. But maybe you want to talk
a
bit
about... Yeah, I just want to tell you a little bit about Thomas' intentions was that the series should be like a disaster series, but in slow motion. And so everything is moving very slowly, and you would see no water masses coming. Everything should look real, and we should stick close to the characters. It's very character-driven and very close to the relations. It's a relational drama. Just shortly about the editing, Thomas is always writing these huge scripts way too long. It was meant to be 42 minutes, 6 episodes, but we ended up with 7 episodes, 50 minutes. And he shoots enormous amounts of footage. So everything in the editing is a huge playground. He's very playful and open and immensely trusting. So his greatest goal is that you feel inspired. He wants to inspire you, and then you can just play with it. So he loves very much to be in the editing room. And I just wanted to talk shortly about the music, because we have no music in the show, because if you have watched Another Round, his recent film, there is this Dogma style where we have no score, but people are singing or playing. or listening to music within the scenes, and we really liked that style, so we tried to incorporate that in the series. And we wanted to use a lot of singing, because we found that in times of crisis, people sing, and it makes you stronger and feel kind of united.
Obviously, when you talk about the initial thought about having no score, like traditional score, it puts a lot of pressure or responsibility onto the sound work. Initially, it was Hans went to the creative meeting. We didn't have any ideas about how it's going to sound by then, other than, like Anne mentioned, Thomas likes to play around a lot in post. So we should be open to try a lot of things, and that we knew that from the very get-go is going to change a lot of directions. We're going to put a lot of sound and then do it all over again, maybe. That's just something we need to be aware of, and he likes working like that. We really wanted to think about this sound design as the score. It needs to be a realistic show. It should be based out of these relations between real people. It's not a sci-fi or big disaster movie. It should be bound to something realistic and really grounded. So early on, we started just sending sound packages with sounds we like and specific locations, or we started sending to the editorial team, because obviously when you send something that you really like a sound that you feel this is going to be, then that's the sound director is going to fall in love with, and not some stand-in sound that you kind of try to replace, and then it always ends up being something. Can we go back to that? Just listen to the edits mix again, because I really like that sound. It has something, blah, blah, blah. That's important to kind of just be very early on, give some sounds that we love to
also,
the editorial.
Just because we are in 6 different countries, so it was important to have the real sounds from the different parts of the world.
And very early on, you guys would send like scenes to either clean up dialogue, so it's easier to how the scene feels with more clean dialogue, but also just sound ideas and getting back and forth ideas. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how me and Hans, we kind of divided it up, because Hans, he was kind of the lead sound person and got me on board, and then we decided to kind of split the whole work up in 2 big parts. So Hans would do all the dialogue, ADR, and the voiceover work, and mix all the music, except for source music of cars passing. If you need live in a scene from a cafe or a car passing with car stereo or something like that, I would, in collaboration with you, kind of find different stuff that we liked. I had all the effects work and the Foley and the source, short source music things. And then we started out just mixing from the very get-go, kind of. As we were going, we would exchange stems, and we would always listen to each other's work, exchange sound volume curves, and say like, oh, I tried this where I took the dialogue and I'd put it down here, and then we'd take this sound up, or he would do it the other way around, and then we would send sessions back and forth weekly. So that way we mixed all the way, because originally it was supposed to be more traditional, where we did a bunch of work, and then it all got handed over, and Hans was supposed to mix it and just deliver it while we feed the mixer with the finished sound. But this way was really nice, because we can pick up ideas from each other. So that's just a way to work as a sound team, I think, when you're more sound designers on a show. So going into the project, Thomas is constantly searching for the best possible idea, and this he's just really open to anything. So, but he wants everything to come from the environment mainly, and it should be realistic. Like, he wants it really alive, and then he said it should be very moist sounding. So it's like really dripping down the walls of sound, like it's really alive. So we want to talk a little bit about the opening scene, the first scene in the show, because that was kind of the first big hurdle that we had to go through.
Also in the editing, so as you know, the opening is really something that you recut all through the whole process of editing, and you go back when you have come to know what is the series about. You go back to the opening and try to make that hook that get people to watch the series. So we just want to show that the opening that we had in our very first cut from the edit. And what we tried to make was this vision of Thomas, like a slow motion thing. It looks like an everyday departure scene, but something is slightly off. And in fact, in the editing room, we all find it kind of intriguing, but we found out that everybody else find it really boring. So we had to do something. So we went to you, and we just sending things back and forth found a completely other way.
Quite a different way, more in the opposite direction, kind of. But when we came to this, Thomas came over and he was really specific about what he wanted. He spent a lot of time with our sounds in the editing room, built this skeleton that we kind of used as a backbone to fill out what was really important. And then we obviously added a lot of layers. But the main thing is he told us this is the place where sound needs to be in the high seat. We need this to be kind of a musical opening made out of radio voices with information and loud fairies, and you'll hear the loud fairies. He really likes loud fairies. And people just kind of calm chaos. But he really wanted to be musical, so we'll just watch how it ended up being.
Vi beklager, at der er så meget pres på, men vi beder alle danskere om at vise tålmodighed. Alle skal nok komme med.
Det er kun tilladt at efterlade biler i afmærkede områder. Vis hensyn og hold trafikken åben for busser og rejsende.
All right. So we started out by putting in all the realistic sounds, all the sounds on screen, all the environmental things that are there in the scene that Thomas really wanted it. He jumps very much in and out of like scenes, so you have a chapter logo or small like produced by, and then you kind of go in and out of the sound very abruptly. After we did that, I still kind of felt like it was missing something like a score could give, like a kind of underlying emotion of eeriness and seriousness. I started working with this tonal layer that we ended up using throughout the whole series. After this kind of test, this became like the test scene. But it all had to be made out of real sounds from the environment. So it's either fairy horns that are playing together in like a chord, or metal screechings that rumbles and stuff like that have more tonal quality. I have this great recording of my mom and her friend. My mom is a music therapist and specialty in voices. We made this recording a long time ago about sitting right next to a stereo microphone with a friend, and they just play off each other, like doing like weird sounds and even singing and stuff like that. In conjunction with all the fairy horns and all the metal rumbles and tonal layers, I tried to put in like these primal sounds of voices. So I just quickly want to go through. This is just the effects session. I'm just going to play it from the beginning and cycle a little bit through the sounds. So a more realistic layer of sounds in the environment. Down here we have a little bit more. It's kind of more of a metal rumble and tonal. So I have all my tonal stuff at the bottom. I know where it is. Here's the voices, kind of like the car coming around, and the same thing over here. Train screeches and stuff like sounded like really eerie. We have like these, but it's really all very much below everything else. So it's kind of just giving a little hint and a feeling that you should not be aware of. Like you shouldn't be, oh, what's the weird woman voice doing there? It's just something put underneath all the real stuff that is happening. And this became like one of the main ideas. And I just want to show, can we go back to then I'll just show the mix version first. No Music is just a man coming to the toilet because they just announced in his workplace he's working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
That something is going to happen. They're not saying what it is.
No, they said something is going to happen, but you can probably know what it is, and we can't say anything yet. So he's going to the toilet, kind of give a hint to his friend. So I'm just going to play the mix.
Og så siger jeg ikke mere.
Right, so this is kind of to illustrate kind of the same voice work, using sound as a musical layer without it being music. So I try to think about like pipes in the wall or HVACs and exhaust systems in the toilet, and people walking by as like a percussive element gives you something like almost a heartbeat or something urgent. And then combined with my dear mother in the pipes going, ah. But I'll just show you what I mean. So we have one of the... So we have pipes and stuff mixed with... And all the way in the bottom, we have sounds of the singing, more calm singing. Here you have the people walking by, gives it kind of something like rhythmical. So this works like it's kind of you stretch out. It's not music, but it kind of gives an emotion. I believe we couldn't do that all the time.
No, we found out that in the end, we actually needed some kind of music to just help a little with the emotion, just a tiny bit. We didn't want any sentimentality, but just help them a little. Also, I wanted to say that sometimes it's very difficult to condense time without music. And if you are making montages, everything becomes really literal. Now he's running, now he's sleeping, now he's smoking. But we really wanted to say he's depressed or something over time. So music can help you with that. And then we had this casting process with 3 different composers trying their attempt on a scene. And we ended up with a French composer who had recently composed for the Belgian film Close, if you have seen that. Very beautiful score. Valentin Ajat. He made just really open, transparent music, and always with a tone of sorrow, even in the happy scenes, and we really like that. So we're just gonna watch a scene with his music.
Hold fast omkring mig med dine runde arme.
Ej, det var så
hold fast.
Giv mig den lige. Jeg læser den. Giv mig den.
Hvad? Er vi til eksamen, eller hvad? Jeg skal op i det der.
Hold fast omkring mig med dine runde arme. Hold fast, imens dit hjerte endnu har blod og varme. Om lidt, så er vi skilt ad, som bærne på hækken. Om lidt er vi forsvundne, som boblerne i bækken.
But the music part was not really like, because you've edited so long, right?
Yeah,
you
that's
edited
true.
for a long time.
Like 1.5 years before we even added music, so we have kept it very simple, and it's very sparse. So only when we really needed it.
We kind of had the sound to be the driving force. They would not put score to kind of drive the story forward. So, and one of the ways we try to do that is just by doing abrupt cuts, like hard cuts all the time, and not be very logical about when to cut what off, and just if it feels right, it's right. Cut into a camera angle that goes from a steady shot into a handheld camera is a great way to cut in a middle of a car pass or ambulance in the background, or even people were talking in a scene and then you cut them off even though they're still there, then it's not there. It's not logical, but it keeps you kind of in the edge of your seat and kind of keeps you interested, I believe. Here's an example of that's like this is the opening of chapter 5 or episode 5, and this is a great example of where kind of listen to the backgrounds, and the dialogue is the force, but also the backgrounds kind of like change all the time, even within a scene. So it's not flattening out everything, it just keeps it some tempo in it.
Gilles Bon, vous finissez, j'arrive. Any news?
I think I have to report her missing. Today, actually.
Right, so I'm just gonna play the same scene, just only the backgrounds, because when the dialogue kind of is going, that's kind of what you feel. I'm just gonna play the effects track so you can listen for like these changes and changing of perspectives. Also, this way of like it's a TV show, so we have dynamic restrictions because you have to. People are not going to watch it in this awesome space, but at home. But not having a lot of music really gave us the opportunity to make the soundscape more dynamic and really push, like have it there and alive and not just hide it, or it's really in your face all the time, and that's quite a privilege. We want to move on to one of the back and forths like we had earlier.
Yeah, just back to our collaboration, because I also think we forgot to mention that all through the editing or the sound process, we are actually open up, even though we had picture lock many times, we are opening up and re-editing and going back and forth all the time. But we also have a lot of test screenings. So we get these informations back from the audience that they really need more information. They're very curious about how is the society at this point, how much time, how are people reacting, why is there no water, everything. So we had to write a lot of radio speaks ADR in the editing that we took to you. And then we would just...
I don't have all the really specifics about it because this was a really, really big job on the whole series, was the dialogue track and all the extra radios, because we would put in these informations that you kind of want to get, but you don't want to push it in people's faces like, oh, now there's a big voiceover saying this is going to happen like this. So we wanted to be kind of in and out of the environment. But I know Hans spent a lot of time in the ADR booth. I think we had, he mentioned at some point, he was like, we have had 48 different people coming in to do ADR lines, so he would be in the ADR room for several weeks. And the way it worked was that you kind of wrote a script based on all the test screenings, wrote a script about what the radio voices, news anchors and stuff like this would say, and then Hans would pick out like 6 different voices that he liked, and then Thomas would choose like 4 of them or something. And then we would record all the lines with all the voices, so we could pick and choose the voice that you want and kind of paint like a mosaic with just radio voices. Again, it's not really logical when something is just a lot of people are talking about what's happening, and a lot of news are telling about it. So yeah, so we can just show you the opening of episode 2, where this is also an example of this.
Her onsdag den 7. juni, 5 døgn efter offentliggørelsen, er der opstået en del uro rundt omkring i landet. Der er varslet flere anti-exit-demonstrationer, og folk hamstrer både varer og kontanter, og det skaber tilsammen en del trafikale problemer.
Flere lande i EU har samtidig meldt ud, at de nu vil indføre skærpet grænsekontrol, og man fremover skal søge om ophold.
Yes. So I just want to talk quickly about this way of working with Anne, but also Janus, but the whole editorial team from the get-go and having you on board the show for until the very end. This is kind of, I believe this is a very, very powerful tool to kind of keep things open and also make sure that it's the best it can be, because you're not trying to quote unquote save an edit or something like that. You just change it and make it, okay, now we change it a little bit so it works better. But I feel like now we're all sound people in here, but this tool is often used to kind of press production together and not to use it in a creative way. And I think this is kind of a shame, because for me, it's meant to kind of lift the project to its highest possible version of itself, and not to kind of say, okay, now we need more editing time, but we want to show this show here, and now we're going to keep the sound deadline here, but then get pushed and pushed, so the sound team kind of gets crammed with stuff, and you don't have time to do what Thomas really likes and just do things over again and try different stuff. That's just like something I believe that I'm a firm believer in. I think it also starts with all the people that are just starting out in the business. Is something that we need to, it's coming back to what Rune said, is something about the Atmos mix and how to do that. It is about kind of educating and telling the producers that this is kind of fighting for that. So it's just a little way of saying, let's fight together about that one.
Also, I think it's more something that we're used to do here in Denmark, but in the US, I think you can answer that the editor is connected to the project much longer.
Yeah, but but I think our time has passed. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.